So GKIDS has just acquired the North American rights to Evangelion 3.0, the theatrical release, which is going to be very, very exciting. We are going to see Evangelion up on the big screen, the highly anticipated fourth and final installment of this kind of rebuild franchise that they're doing, which is very, very, very cool. Yeah.
The fourth movie? Is this the fourth? Because
it's the fourth.
It's the fourth.
I'm just trying to think about what's on Netflix. Or Amazon. It's Amazon.
Amazon has it, I think.
Amazon, the third movie or this?
I think the third movie. This is going to be in theaters and then probably streaming shortly afterwards.
Okay, because yes, I'm confused because I love these movies, and the last one that is now on Amazon which bums me out because I guess I have three. I guess this is the fourth one. Trying to figure it out. It's bonkers. But so they're releasing in the theaters the fourth movie that's already on Amazon.
That is what it is looking like here. So basically what we've got comes from Deadline. Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time was released in Japanese theaters in 2021, where it was a critical and box office success, becoming the highest grossing film of the year at about $85 million in local box office. Now, GKIDS plans to release the anticipated film in theaters in late 2022, marking the first time Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.01 Thrice Upon a Time will be available in theaters in North America since its domestic release. A release on home entertainment platforms will follow, with dates to be announced.
Yes, because that has been frustrating not to be able to get this on Blu-ray.
Right? Well, and seeing these things, any kind of big epic anime, getting to see this in a theater is always so much more fun. Anytime you can have space, giant robots, anything like that on a big screen.
And this movie is bonkers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bonkers in it.
It's very, very exciting stuff. Along with it, too, we also had this news of Crunchyroll picking up the animated classic sequel to Trigun Stampede. So we'll continue following Vash the Stampede and everything.
I'm a big fan of that as well.
I love
That's
Trigun.
some classic anime.
It's very exciting stuff. But what I wanted to talk to you about both of these things, Rob, is we were talking the other day about, adaptations of anime, appeasing Western audiences and the Western sensibility. But obviously, North American audiences crave anime content. So I wanted to talk to you about, why do you think we're seeing such a boom in this content? And why do you think people are so ravenous for it?
Well, it's interesting. When I was growing up, I'm dating myself, but you had like Kimba the White Lion, you had Marine Boy, you had Speed Racer, and then during the early 80s, a lot of the Japanese super robot cartoons were coming over, like Guy King and Star Avengers, which is Get a Robo G, which was a sequel to Get a Robo, Go Nagai's Get a Robo. I was a huge fan of all that stuff. And of course, I love, still one of my favorite things ever is Space Battleship Yamato, or as we know it in the States, Star Blazers. And then of course, Robotech, which was Macross, Southern Cross, and Genesis Climber Mospeada. I'm dating myself horribly. Vampire Hunter D, and there was all this kind of stuff. And what I thought, what was appealing about it was there was a different sensibility that was going on in these shows that we didn't have here in America. And I think a lot of the real robot and super robot shows, the mecha shows, the Japanese anthropomorphize their machines the way we don't. And one of the things that I always loved about Star Blazers, and I think I was talking about on the show earlier, was the idea that the Yamato, which had been sunk in World War II, could get resurrected because of Queen Starsha of Iskandar sending us the technology and putting in a wave motion gun and a wave motion engine and sending it aloft into space. Or Galaxy Express, 999, that there's a train in space, which I loved too. Masamoto Leijei's stuff. I loved all that stuff. And it just is different. There's a sensibility, also the way kids are treated. There's a weird snark that has infected American children's programming. I blame, starting with The Simpsons. I call it the Bart Simpson effect. Where Bart Simpson was always smarter than his parents. Japanese programming, kids are more kid-like in a way. They're not snarky, and they're not, well, maybe some are, but there's a different thing going on that I actually think is
responsibility and great destiny.
Yes, and all of that, and the hero's journey. And I think that that's something that kids crave, that has been removed from a lot of American children's programming. And like you said, destiny. And I think manga is doing very, very well, whereas American comic books are not. I think because everyone here in America, we want to change. We want to change everyone's perceptions and be more. We're willing to compromise the stories that we're being told right now for different kinds of ideas and ideologies. And I think the Japanese are not. The Japanese are staying truer to these classical stories that they continually draw upon. And I think there's truth. There's more truth in anime and manga there. Truth for what it means to be human and what we aspire to and what friendship and all of those traditional values that, when I say traditional values, I mean traditional values in storytelling, those epic, ancient ideas that are in these stories. I think that manga and anime does a really great job. And plus, they do it, and I would call it in a very Baroque fashion.
Yeah.
And I love all that. Like Howl's Moving Castle. Look at Miyazaki's work. You look at Howl's Moving Castle, no Americans would come up with something like, and I'm sure somebody might would in America, but that's what makes anime so great. Miyazaki stuff alone.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. And the sensibility in all of it is not a Western sensibility. And yet there's a universality to the storytelling that is just wonderful that I don't think we can do in the United States.
I think there's also a lovely note too of in anime and manga, it is always, I'll do my best. It's not the same idea of American excellence of I have to be the best, despite what the Pokemon theme song in American and in English tells us, right? It's about trying your best, doing the best work that you can, being in competition with yourself ultimately, which is very interesting. And I love that. The idea of almost swim team, you're staying in your lane.
Guys, we want to take just a minute and thank the sponsor of this video, Masterclass. Masterclass is offering classes on a wide variety of topics, like all taught by world-class masters at the absolute tops of their field. Each class is broken down out into individual video lessons, usually like around 10 minutes or so long, and members can explore at their own pace. And each class is supported by downloadable materials, lessons, recipes, or more that you can all find at masterclass.com. For example, are you into streaming? Well, you can take the Building Your Streaming class taught by ninjas so you can sharpen up on your streaming skills. Or if you're interested in independent filmmaking, take independent filmmaking from Academy Award winner Spike Lee. You want to get classes on how to direct? How about from Ron Howard? The very first one I personally looked up and got into was Business Leadership by the great Big Papa Iger, Bob Iger himself. And I was absolutely enthralled with it. I love every single minute of this stuff. If any of those apply to you, you need to try Masterclass. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Get unlimited access to every Masterclass. And as a John Campea Show viewer, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/Campea. Once again, to get 15% off your annual membership, go to masterclass.com/Campea.
Joel actually had this, Joel in the chat actually had the same question I had. If you were to sum up, if you're trying to sell me this series that we're talking about, I can't even pronounce the
Evangelion?
Yeah. How would you describe it? Just to give, because a lot of us don't even know what this property is about. What would you say is the main pulling point?
I think people who even love this series have been debating that.
But the basic gist of it.
I mean,
is it can you sum
Kaiju
it up?
descending upon Earth.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so it's really hard to explain because you have these things called, well, there's some. How would you get into this? How would you explain this? You could say, hey, it is about a young man who is accepting the mantle of responsibility of being able to drive an Evangelion, an Eva.
Yeah, like a robot.
To save, giant robot, to save the Earth against these monster kaiju existential creatures called angels from destroying the world.
It's very Pacific Rim-esque.
Okay.
But it also has a very religious and existential overtone to it all about creation, about destruction, and it's transcendence.
Is that something they shove in your face though?
No.
Okay.
But it is a deep show though, because it's you come for the kaiju and robots and you stay for the existential conflict.
Yes, and the relationships and some of the imagery in this film is incredible. I mean, the scope of it, the battles, it's just monstrously huge. But this is different than, say, Gundam.
Yeah.
Gundam, the entire Gundam franchise is basically an anti-war series, you know, and it deals with that. It's wartime, life during wartime, and all the different iterations of Gundam. There's the Universal Century Gundams, and then there's the offshoots like Wing Gundam and things like that. But this is more existential and more religious in nature, even though it's about giant robots fighting giant monsters.
And I'm going to throw in my choice for best children's cartoon. And
Yeah.
it's not Japanese, or it's not even American. It's Australian. It's
Ooh.
Bluey. Have you seen that show, Bluey, with the
Bluey's
dog family?
precious.
It's so good. I mean,
I'm too old.
Adorable.
no, I mean, it's
Yeah.
on Disney Plus. It's,
See, is
it's
the-
such a cute show. I mean,
Tunes are for
I'd
everybody.
watch that.
Tunes are for everyone. I do want to just touch on, too, though, this theatrical release of Evangelion. It does bring up something near and dear to me, the pay discrepancy for dub actors. And I understand not everyone's into dubs. Some people are going to see the subbed. Some people are going to see it that way, and that's the only way for them. But dub actors, though, I remember back in the day when I was starting over at Sentai Filmworks, and I loved working for them. And you think, oh my gosh, I'm making $90 an hour. This is incredible. What a cool thing. These movies are bringing in huge box office numbers. And these dub actors, who a lot of you follow on, Instagram and Twitter, they have to have survival jobs because they can't sustain
No.
their livelihoods because they're paid so little. And I do think that's something that needs to be part of the conversation too, as we're bringing these things over to the US for theatrical releases.
Shout out to Sentai Filmworks, who put the single most expensive piece of physical media out that I ever bought,
Oh, yeah?
which was my favorite anime of all time, Legends of the Galactic Heroes. They
Oh.
put out a box set for $800.
Woo!
And you know what? When they did that, I was like, click.
Let's
I
go
didn't even think
Sentai.
twice.
I
Thank you,
loved
Sentai
working for them.
Filmworks.
They were real, real great. I loved them. But I do think that's something that we just have to come to terms with, though, too, of making sure that talent is compensated fairly when you're bringing in all this cheddar.
You know what, though? You don't get what you deserve.
You get
what you negotiate.
for. This is very, very true. It's just, when you're a young, sweet, starry-eyed little dub actor, they'll go, you want to put me in your movie? Okay.
But you'll be able to make convention money for the rest of your life.
Oh, maybe. Some of them do. Some of them do. But let us know your thoughts about all of this, guys, in the comments down below. Are you excited about these new releases coming to the States? How are you feeling about them? Did you even know about Evangelion before? And do you want to check it out now that you know a little bit more about it?
And especially the interesting story between the series itself and these new remake movies.
Exactly. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. So let us know your takes in the comments down below.